So good morning, everyone, and welcome to the first session of Jashn Azaadi. This is our contribution to Azaadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. As you know, January 26th is Republic Day, and you might be wondering why this has anything to do with Azaadi. But a very long time ago, our freedom fighters on the 26th of January had declared independence on this day, and they would annually celebrated as Independence Day. And when our republic was proclaimed, this date was symbolically chosen in that we became independent of our own free will. And we chose this date to solemnize the foundation of the Indian Republic. So with that, we will start today. Today, in the first session, we have a paper presentation contest where our three finalists, Hemadri, Ludbe, Reechi, Tatkare, and Alina, Qureshi, will be presenting papers. I invite Hemadri Ludbe to begin. Hemadri, please introduce yourself and then please share your presentation.
Yes, am I audible?
Yes.
So good morning, everyone. And first of all, a very happy Republic Day to all of you. And I want to thank the Mumbai Research Center of the Asiatic Society of Mumbai for giving me this amazing opportunity to talk about the Bombay's contribution, and that too on the Republic Day and such an important occasion. So my name is Hemadri Pradeep Ludbe. I'm 22 years old. I completed my Bachelor's of Arts from in History from Ramnarayan Ruya Autonomous College, and I'm pursuing MA in History from the University of Mumbai. I'm currently in my final year. Film history and the history of Mumbai city are my areas of interest. I have presented a paper at National Conference on Cinema Through the Lens of History, organized by St. Xavier's Autonomous College in 2020. The topic of my research was a study of patriotic songs and Bollywood in the changing times. I wish to discover the hidden chapters of history in our films and in our Bombay city and make their contribution known to all. A topic for today's presentation is Bombay Underground at 1942, the Socialist Connection. So I will share my screen now. Is my presentation visible?
Yes.
So I'll start with my presentation. So yes, Bombay Underground at 1942, the Socialist Connection. Bliss was it in that dawn to be alive, but to be young was very heavy. Usha Mehta quoted these lines by William Wordsworth as she described her memories from the first Independence Day. For many freedom fighters like Usha Mehta, it was a culmination of a lifelong struggle, and the city of Bombay played a vital role in the freedom movement. When India was dragged into the Second World War, socialist leaders strongly opposed it, and Congress decided to launch a nationwide struggle. Sardar Patel made it very clear that this won't be a jail bharo andolan. So the socialist leader, uh, am I audible?
You are audible, but there is some disturbance.
Shall I continue?
Yeah. Continue, please.
So, the socialist leaders strongly opposed the Indian participation in World War, and Congress decided to launch a nationwide struggle. And Sardar Patel made it very clear that this won't be a jail war andolan. And the socialist leaders had started to plan their course of action for this upcoming struggle as early as in May 1940. A camp was held at Babalal Shah's bungalow in Pune to plan the basic idea of underground movement. One of the attendees of this camp was Bhai Kotwal, who established Azad Dasta near Kartar. This group worked to cut down the pylons at of the electricity transmission towers that supplied electricity to Bombay and Pune during the Quit India movement. It was decided that It was decided that the functioning of this underground movement will work through various squads. So, for example, one of the squads that was planned was destructive squad, and it had duties like creating disturbances, blowing up telegraph lines, railway lines, etc. The political channelization in Bombay also began at the same time. Bombay became the epicenter of all the political activities. The parks and maidans of Bombay became the venues for political meetings and public gatherings. The Lalbagh Maidan, the Nare Park ground, the ground opposite Phoenix Mill, the Gowalia Tank Maidan, or the Shivaji Park, all of them played a significant role. The first major meeting by Bombay Provincial Congress Committee was held at Girgaon Chowpatty Maidan on 26 July 1942. The All India Congress Committee session at Gowalia Tank Maidan was to take place on 7th, 8th, and 9th August. It was going to be very important. As many leaders from all over India were to attend this session, it was evident that British were going to do everything in their power to arrest a majority of them. Therefore, it was decided that as soon as the official call for quit India will be given, the socialist leaders will go underground. On the midnight of 8 August 1942, all major leaders of the Congress were arrested. On 9th August, Gandhi was to speak at Gowalia Tank Maidan and Kasturba was to speak at Shivaji Park in the evening. But they were arrested and sent to Aga Khan Palace in Pune. The telephone lines in Bombay were suspended overnight. But Mumbai has always had this spirit of show must go on, and that is exactly what happened that day too. People gathered at Gowalia Tank Maidan, and Aruna Asaf Ali hosted the flag at 8 a.m. British ordered lathi charge and tear gas to threaten them. In the coming days, railway stations such as Dadar BB were set on fire, and post offices were shut down, and thousands of people were arrested. The underground movement. So, as the socialist leaders went underground, the underground movement began. Jayaprakash Narayan was arrested in the early phase, but he escaped from the Hazaribagh jail in November 1942 and went underground as well. Many leaders played an important role in this movement whose contribution is not discussed much. One of them was Aruna Asaf Ali. She took the responsibility of circulating the illegally printed materials such as magazines, booklets, bulletins, etc. All correspondence between these leaders was strictly oral, like through volunteers and freedom fighters. No letters, telegraph, or notes were allowed. And even if they sent letters or notes to each other, they were asked to destroy them immediately so that they should not fall into the hands of CID or police. Care was taken to that no common people will be harmed during the struggle. And a central directorate of leaders was established in Bombay. It consisted of Achyutrao Patwardhan, Aruna Asaf Ali, Dr. Ram Manohar Lohiya, and Sucheta Kriplani. All of them were assigned a certain code name and a specific responsibilities that they had to carry out. The secret office of the Bombay Congress Committee was established at Cathedral Street in Bombay. So, how this underground movement worked? They would rent a flat, out their work. They would have meetings with other leaders to plan the next steps and change the place before falling into the hands of police. One of the first residences used by socialist leaders during the underground movement was Mushak Mahal. It was a flat outside Bombay Central Station. It is the place where S.M. Joshi planned his disguise as Imam Ali, and socialist leaders planned all their activities in Bombay in the beginning phase. It was raided on 18th April 1943 when many of the socialist leaders was arrested from Mushak Mahal. The second place was Hadar House. Hadar is a Marathi word for female ghost. And when they were trying to rent the flat, the owner uh, he was telling that the flat is haunted, and that's why they named it as Hadar House. So it was situated in Nar Bazar, Bhuleshwar. Here, Achyutrao Patwardhan, Ram Manohar Lohiya, S.M. Joshi, Jayaprakash Narayan, and Madhu Lime, such socialist leaders stayed for many months. The third secret base was named as Bhoot Bangla. It was raided on 18 September 1943. S.M. Joshi, in his autobiography, had said that during those days he had started considering 18th as an unlucky day for underground movement because many raids took place on that day. In the raid on Bhoot Bangla, S.M. Joshi, Madhu Leme, Jayaprakash Narayan were arrested and sent to Arthur Road jail. Also, many pamphlets, magazines, along with some unlicensed pistols were seized from the Booth Bangla. Apart from such secret places, the movement was also helped by some other leaders who volunteered for the cause. For example, Annasaheb Sahasrabuddhe was an important activist and Gandhian and one of the leaders of the Bhudan movement started by Vinoba Bhave. He had his residence in Palanji Sopanji Chaul at Dadar. He started working under the code name Sundar Lal and gave his assistant for manufacturing arms and ammunition that can be used by the freedom fighters. Apart from this, a number of magazines, bulletins, and booklets played an important role in the underground movement. They were circulated illegally. They informed people about the progress of the movement, and they also appealed them to join the freedom struggle. The next important aspect of the underground movement is the Congress radio or the Azad radio or the underground radio as it is called. The leaders had realized the need to stay in touch with the public, and radio was an important source of communication. But it was an expensive source too. And the major challenge for the socialist leaders was to find finances, technicians, and a safe place for setting up the underground radio. Dr. Lohia was instrumental in establishing the underground radio station in Bombay, and Usha Mehta, Chandrakant Zaveri, and Vittal Zaveri were the young leaders involved in this process. Nariman Printer, a business minded person, agreed to finance the radio. The top floor of Hotel Seaview near Girgaon Chowpatty was rented on 26 August 1942. The equipments were set up and wavelength was decided. There are different accounts regarding when the radio started, but the places were acquired by the leaders in the third or the last week of August, such as the place at Chowpatty. Therefore, the date 3rd September 1942 seems to be acceptable. These details are available in the book The Congress Radio by Usha Thakkar ma'am. On 3rd September 1942, the first announcement from the underground radio station went on air. Usha Mehta said, "This is the Congress radio calling on 42.34 meters from somewhere in India." Usha Mehta, the first announcer of the Congress radio, was a 22-year-old master's student from Wilson College in Mumbai. The broadcast would take place once a day, but later it was made twice a day. It would start with playing Sare Jahan Se Acha, followed by the News on Quit India movement, speeches by important leaders, and would end with Vande Mataram. There used to be a batch of writers and announcers who would announce in English, Hindustani, Urdu, and in Marathi. After Hotel Seaview, the second location was the Ratan Mahal in Walkeshwar. The radio helped a lot to spread information among the people when other mediums were placed under strict restrictions. Motivated by its success in Bombay, Lohia and Jayaprakash Narayan took the efforts to start such underground radio stations in Calcutta as well as in Nepal. There was an active underground station in Pune as well, which was run by leaders like Shiru Bhaulime, Vasant Bapat, S.M. Joshi, and L.K. Deshpande. Sane Guruji gave speeches for these radio stations. The British became aware of the existence of such an underground radio station in Bombay as soon as within 3 days of the first broadcast. But they just couldn't find the location from where it was being operated. But this somewhere in India was always from some place in Bombay. But when such high risk secret activities are carried out, they live under the constant threat of seizure. By November 1942, British police conducted multiple raids on radio shops in Bombay. And Nariman Printer, the financier of the radio, is believed to have tipped the police about the location of the underground radio. On 12th November 1942, the final broadcast of the Congress radio took place. And it was from Babubhai Khakkar's office in Bombay. It was raided, and Usha Mehta, Chandrakant Zaveri were arrested along with all their associates, and the material of the Congress radio was seized by the British police. They were charged for conspiring against the government and they were sentenced to jail. A number of underground leaders were arrested in the late 1942 and early 1943. Achyutrao Patwardhan and Aruna Asaf Ali, however, kept working without falling into their hands and they refused to surrender. By 1942, 1944, British authorities started releasing some of the leaders. When Gandhi was released in 1944, he wrote a handwritten note to Aruna Asaf Ali requesting her to surrender because of her deteriorating health condition. But the fierce lady didn't even listen to Gandhi. Achudra Patwardhan and Aruna Asaf Ali resurfaced only after the naval mutiny of 1946. By the end of World War II, many leaders were released, but JP, Lohia were not released until 1946. When the radio announcer and freedom fighter Usha Mehta was released in April 1946, she received a huge welcome by socialist leaders, socialist activists, and thousands of common people at Dadar station as well as at Viti station. Well, coming to the conclusion, a fact needs to be mentioned. From August 1942 to February 1944, more than 50,000 people were arrested in the Bombay province itself. Viceroy Lithgow, in a letter written to Winston Churchill on 31st August 1942, said that I am engaged here in meeting by far the most serious rebellion since that of 1857. This shows the intensity of this movement. The underground leaders, radio announcers secretly received news from all over India and they made people aware of the reality. The Congress radio was the first to inform people about the bomb raids and airstrike on Kolkata and Jamshedpur by Japanese army during the Second World War. They told people about the atrocities committed by British and they also about the support India was receiving for its freedom struggle at the international level from eminent personalities such as Bernard Shaw, Albert Einstein, Louis Fisher, etc. They made Indians realize their inner strength. The period from 1942 to 1946 is not discussed much in our textbooks. From the Quit India movement of 1942, we directly jump onto the naval mutiny of 1946. But this period was certainly not a blank or a bleak. All the events that I discussed in today's presentation have taken place between 1942 to 1946. Preparing for this presentation showed me, as a history student, that I was missing on a lot. Soon we will be celebrating our 75th year of independence, and I feel that our aim should be to know the unknown, to hear the unheard, and to discover the undiscovered. Thank you. Uh, I'm done with my presentation.
Yeah.
Thank you
Yes.
very
Thank you
much,
so much.
Hemadri.
Thank you so much.
Shahnaz ma'am, would
Um,
you like to comment on this?
no, let's let participants ask questions, and then I'll just speak a little bit.
Sure.
Yeah. Let if anyone has questions, it would be nice if participants can interact with the students.
Participants can unmute themselves and ask questions. No questions? You can also type in the chat box if you're feeling shy to ask openly. There appear to be no questions. Yeah, okay, there is a question.
Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Just an addition. Satara had this parallel government running during this time. So this could be also added.
Yes, ma'am. So I read about the parallel governments, and yes, it was important aspect of the Quit India movement. And
Yes.
because I decided to focus on the Bombay city itself, not the Bombay province or Bombay presidency as such. So as I was going to focus on city and the freedom fighters who worked within the city, so I chose to like keep it aside.
Yeah.
Because when I talked about Bhai Kotwal, he was also responsible for running a parallel government in near Karzat, but
Yes.
I did mention it because I only wanted to focus on what he did, like what was his contribution to the Quit India movement. So the Azad Dasta was cutting down they like cut down the pylons that supplied electricity to the Bombay city. So
Okay.
that is the reason I chose to exclude this point. But yes, it is very important, and I will read about it.
Okay.
Uh, yes, a
Nitya
question. Yes, ma'am.
Nitya Pawar has a question. Can you please recommend some sources to read more about this time period?
The sources that I referred was I got to read for this presentation. I read the biographies and autobiographies of the leaders who have participated in the movement. So I read the autobiography of S.M. Joshi, and then Usha Thakkar's ma'am, the recent release, the Congress Radio, which tells the story of Usha Mehta. So there are many such sources like the reading biographies or autobiographies gave me the personal perspective, like they have been a part of this movement, so I could understand it from their perspective. So in his autobiography, like all of this seems like a suspense thriller movie, like working underground and having code names and disguise. But SM Joshi says in his autobiography that for a lot of, for a considerable period of time, it was a quite a boring time. We couldn't meet anyone, we couldn't get to see our family members, and it was just when we had to work or we had something to do, it was the exciting period or the important. But all of the time it was a very boring, and it was a challenging period for us. So we know them as freedom fighters, great people, but we have to understand them as person, as a normal human being. And reading their biographies or autobiographies gave me that perspective. So I think I will recommend others to like read them. Also, there are a number of documentaries and broadcasts available on the YouTube channels, the Prasar Bharati archives or the DD National archives. And these archives, they have the old broadcasts and the interviews of the freedom fighters. So these are very important that we get to know about this period a lot from such documentaries.
Thank you, Hemadri. Sudhanshu would like to say that you did a great presentation, and Nitya also expresses the same opinion. Do we have any further questions? Okay. Shanaz ma'am, shall we move on?
I mean, I congratulate you, Hemadri, for a very good presentation. And I'm so happy that you could access the new book that Dr. Usha Thakkar has brought out, because I think it really, sort of captures the feeling of that period. And, Usha Thakkar had the good fortune of knowing Usha Mehta very personally. They worked together, she was her guide. So as a result, she's been able to bring in the finer points of what Usha Ben had to, what she did and what she meant, and what, the freedom struggle meant to her. So I'm very,
Yes,
very
ma'am.
happy
Yes.
that you could access this book, and,
Yes.
you have cited it as far as your bibliography is
Yes.
concerned and mentioned it today. And there were a
Yes.
lot of students at that time. I think that could also be a topic of
Yes,
some
ma'am.
research
So
about the student movement and the freedom struggle.
yes. So when I was
And
reading, sorry, yes, sorry to interrupt.
uh, no,
Uh,
and there were a lot of, Usha Ben's, Usha Mehta's student friends, from Wilson College, who played a very, very important role in the freedom struggle.
Yes.
So,
Yes, when I was reading about this, in the book itself, the Congress Radio,
uh,
the first pamphlets that were seized from Shivaji Park on 9th August, these first pamphlets were student publications, and
yes,
these were printed by Usha Mehta ma'am and their associates.
yeah,
And yes, it was very important. And when I read about that, when she worked as a radio announcer for the Congress Radio, she was the same age as ours, like 22 years old,
yes.
pursuing masters. And that was like an eye opener for me, and I was just surprised, like they have did so much at such a young age.
Yeah. And there's a very good book called Wilson College in My Times, which again captures a lot of memories of, various Wilsonians who were a part of the freedom struggle. So there are lots of, articles over there, reminiscences over there regarding, the freedom struggle. So you could read up that also and get a further insight. But
Yes,
thank you.
ma'am.
Your
Sure.
presentation was very good. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Yeah.
ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, Ramesh, we can ask the next speaker now.
Yes, ma'am. Alina, can you
Yes,
share
ma'am.
screen, please?
Yeah.
Yeah, please introduce yourself and then share your screen.
Good morning, one and all present here. First, I would like to thank the organizers for inviting me to this grand event of Jashn Azaadi and allowing me to present my paper presentation today. Myself, Alina Qureshi, I am an undergraduate student of RG College. I am a student with academic distinction of 75% in my 10th and 12th. I'm keenly interested in extracurricular activities and I am excel at PowerPoint presentation, poster making, speech, and some other. Today, I will talk about women of Bombay and their struggle for freedom. I hope you will. I hope you will like my paper presentation. Yeah, I will start. Mic on. Am I audible?
Yes.
Hello. Yeah. My topic for today is Bombay Women Struggle for Freedom. Independence movement is often narrated in terms of the country as a whole, but the city of Mumbai has undoubtedly played a key role in the freedom struggle. The city of Bombay, now Mumbai, has a long history in freedom struggle. The most prominent movements were launched from Bombay, which includes non-cooperation, Swadeshi, Khadi, Home Rule, and Khilafat movements. Other than men, Bombay saw participation of many brave women in India's freedom fight. Many women from Bombay participated in the different movements held in Bombay. Many names that went unnoticed by people were having the biggest role and kept the freedom movement alive. Sarojini Naidu once said, "A country's greatness lies in its undying ideals of love and sacrifice that inspire the mothers of the race." Here are the women who actively participated in freedom struggle from Bombay. In 1907, Vikaiji Kama was actively participated in Indian independence movement. In 1930, Mituben Patel bravely participated in Dandi March. In 1942, Usha Mehta played a crucial role in Quit India movement. In the same year, Aruna Asaf Ali led the Quit India movement. Talking about Bikaji Kama, Madam Kama is known as the mother of Indian Revolution, was one of the prominent figures in the Indian independence movement. Bikaji Kama was born in Bombay in a large Parsi family. She was all by account a diligent, disciplined child with a flair for languages. In 1896, the Bombay Presidency was hit first by famine and after that by plague. Bikaiji joined one of the many teams working out of Grant Medical College. She was sent to Britain in 1902, where she met Dadabhai Naoroji, then president of the British Committee of Indian National Congress. Together with Naoroji and Singh Ravabhai Rana, Kama supported the founding of Indian Home Rule Society in 1905. She described the devastating effects of famine that had struck India. In her appeal for human rights, she unfurled what she called the flag of Indian independence in Germany. Bikaiji Kama was the first lady to unfurl the first national flag of India. Next is Mituben Petit. Mituben Petit was one of the pioneer Indian independence female activists. She was born in 1892 in Bombay. Petit was known as Maiji. She received Padma Shri in 1961 from her social work. Because of this, she was given the title of Maiji. Mituben Petit led the life of sacrifice and simplicity dedicated to Gandhian principles. Petit, along with Kasturba Gandhi, and Sarojini Naidu, played a major part in Salt March. The march was one of the most important events in the Indian independence movement. Petit set up an ashram in Maroli called Kasturba Vanatshala and also opened a hospital by the same name. Usha Mehta. Usha Mehta was a Gandhian and freedom fighter of India. She is also remembered for organizing the Congress Radio, also called the Secret Congress Radio, in the wake of Quit India movement. She studied in Wilson College, Bombay. She ended her studies to join the Quit India movement. Gandhiji and Congress had announced that the Quit India movement will commence on 9th August 1942. Nearly all the leaders were arrested, including Gandhi. Usha and some of her close associates began the Secret Congress Radio in 1942. However, later the police found their location and arrested her. She was released in 1946 by the interim government in Bombay. She is well known for running the Secret Congress Radio, participating in the second round of Indian Table Conference, leading a contingent of Indian National Army, assisting in the formation of interim government under Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. Aruna Asaf Ali. Aruna Asaf Ali was an educator, political activist, and publisher, and an active participant in the Indian independence movement. She is widely remembered for hosting the Indian national flag at Bombay during Quit India movement. She became Delhi's first mayor. She helped to form the National Federation of Indian Women. She and Narayan started Link Publishing House and published daily newspaper. Role in freedom struggle. Aruna Asaf Ali became the member of National Congress and participated in public procession during the Salt Satyagraha. She was arrested on the charge that she was vagrant. Other women refused to leave the premises unless she was also released. She was held prisoner at the Tihar jail, where she protested that indifferent treatment of political prisoners by launching hunger strike. Her efforts resulted in an improvement of conditions in Tihar jail. She is known as the Grand Old Lady of India's freedom struggle. Satyagraha of Bombay. Women joined the movement in thousands, marking the beginning of the women's movement. When we speak women at the Satyagrahas, we usually speak at Sarojini Naidu leading the movement and many others. Women made its way to Chowpatty Beach on the same day that Gandhi made salt at Dandi. The Bombay Chronicles reported that they carried makeshift stove and chulhas. After a few hours of making the salt, they were raided by the police. Housewives reportedly joined in, armed with pots and pans. Thousands of women strove down to the sea like proud warriors, but instead of weapons, they bore pitchers of clay, brass, and copper. And instead of uniforms, they wore simple cotton saris of village India. Women started organizing Prabhat Feris or morning processions on the street of Bombay, where they sang songs about the bounty of the motherland. Day by day, the streets of Bombay would lived in the early morning with songs of freedom. The fact that many of these women belonged to respectable families forced the police to be somewhat restrained. When the participating processions grew, the police became less restrained and the women faced brutal lathi charges, and a number of them ended up in prison. Jawaharlal Nehru writes in The Discovery of India, here were these women of the upper or middle classes, leading sheltered life in their homes. Peasant women, working class women, rich women, poor women, pouring out in their tens of thousands in defense of government order and police lathi. These pictures of women's participating in different movement of freedom struggle. First, Quit India movement, women of Satyagraha, women singing freedom songs in street, Lathi charge on women, women on strike. The part taken by Usha Mehta, Madam Kama, Mituben Petit, and Aruna Asaf Ali, and many other women is remarkable. The strength they hold in the struggle for freedom is not mere greed. And I salute to the power this woman had that changed India to be what it is today. In order to fight for freedom, these women went through so many ups and downs. They were arrested, their health were hampered. They went on strikes, care about nothing but independence. I hereby respect and bow them for the courageous work they have done in order to make a better tomorrow. I am glad that we have such a great shining example in front of us. Thank you and a very happy Republic Day to all.
Thank you very much, Alina. The floor is open to questions.
Yeah, thank you. We are open to questions. Any questions? Participants, any questions, any interaction? Alina, congratulations.
Thank you, ma'am.
And I'm very, very happy that, you as a first year student, what I find very noteworthy is that you're a first year BA student, so you have taken the initiative to present this paper, because the other two participants are postgraduate participants. So you as a first year BA have done a very good job. And read up more on women and the freedom struggle. There is a lot, you have taken the more famous people, the more famous names. There are a whole lot of, sort of forgotten voices within the freedom struggle. And the museum is going to have an entire exhibition on forgotten voices somewhere at the end of the year, that is 2022 December. There's going to be an exhibition on forgotten voices and freedom struggle. So that is something that we look forward to, because students of Ruia College and Sophia College are a part of this exhibition, and they are looking at many things. So
okay, ma'am.
Yeah.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Ramesh. Ramesh.
Yes, ma'am. I now call upon Reechi Tatkare, our final presenter. Please introduce yourself, Reechi, and then please share your screen.
Hello, my name is Reechi Tatkare, and I graduated from Ruia College. I have done my BA from Ruia College, and I'm currently pursuing my last year of Masters from University of Mumbai. I am mostly passionate about Indian history and like learning languages, and I am also a big reader. So this is my first time presenting a paper. So thank you, the Mumbai Research Center and the Asiatic Society for giving me this opportunity. And I will start. My topic is Godavari Parurikar, a communist freedom fighter. And I will present my screen now. Thank you. Okay. So first, I'm going to talk about her early life. So she was born in Pune. Second, yeah, she was born in Pune on 14th August 1907. Her father, Lakshman Rao, he was actually the cousin of Gopal Krishna Gokhale, a very famous moderate freedom fighter. And her father was also a lawyer. So when she pursued her higher education from Ferguson College, she had already started working in the student movements. Some of her classmates were S.M. Joshi, Achyut Rao Patwardhan, who also became freedom fighters later. And she also became the first female to graduate as a lawyer. Her father wanted her to pursue the practice as a lawyer, but she was already drawn to the freedom struggle of India, and she continued doing that. She participated in organized individual satyagrahas, and through this she was imprisoned by British, and this happened during 1932. And after her release from the jail, her father denounced her. He severed all her ties with her, and because of that she had to move to Mumbai. And coming to Mumbai, like a new chapter in her life started when she joined the Servants of India Society. So the Servants of India Society was started by Gopal Krishna Gokhale in 1905 and mostly held moderate views. But before moving ahead, I would like to add this, that talking about Godavari Parulekar would be incomplete if I don't talk about Shamrao Parulekar, who also joined the society in 1932, and who also was a lawyer, who also was drawn to the freedom struggle from his early life, and whose family had also severed all the ties because of his participation in the struggle. And they became colleagues in the Servants of India Society, but also later they got married and led almost a 25-year-old relation, private and public political relationship. So afterwards, I would be referring them as like they, because both of them were working with each other. So during the same time, Shamrao also joined the society, and both Godavari and Shamrao were very much class focused. So even in their earlier years as social services, they looked at the workers and the laborers, and they tried helping them. So they fought against the British Raj, but they also organized labor movements. Like Shamrao joined the Labour's Party, and Godavari had two major labor movements. She participated in two major labor unions. One was in 1937 and 38. She started the adult literacy campaign. This was one of its first kind in Maharashtra. And her other participation was starting a new section in trade union movements for the domestic workers especially. So in 1938 and 39, both of them joined the Communist Party. With the onset of the World War II, there was a growing divide in the Servants of India Society. As I said, both of their views were turning more radical, and that created a lot of clash between other members. And when the war started, mainly three factions sort of were to be seen. One was to give unconditional support to the British. Second was to give extended conditional support, and third was opposing any sort of support to the British and actually fighting back because they were weak at that time. And the Parulekars fell into that last campaign, last faction per se. And in 1939, they also got married, they started the anti-war campaign, as I said, and wrote many letters and toured to many places, said many speeches, and made people aware that resisting the British now would help us to achieve our national independence, because they were weak at that time, rather than supporting the exploiter. They also showed their sympathies towards the Polish and also criticized Germany. And that they also believed, as the time went on, these speeches obviously were noticed by the British, regiment, and Shamrao was imprisoned. And in this, before his imprisonment, they actually had started a worker strike in Mumbai in 1940, and this strike was actually also supported by other leaders like S.A. Dange and B.T. Randive. And after his imprisonment, Godavari continued the strike with other activists for 40 days, and but eventually she was also put in the jail for 2 years. And with this, a new chapter in their life starts, which is a very important chapter, as because of in the 1940s they started their work with the Adivasis, which they continued working for till the end of their life. One second. So after their imprisonment, their connections with the Servants of India Society ended completely. Their membership was terminated. So sorry. So after coming out of jail in 1942, Shamarao and Godavari shifted their focus from laborers and workers to peasants. And one of the biggest reasons for that is the Chinese Revolution. So to explain it in her own words, quote, our country has 70% of its people belonging to the peasantry. If this huge mass is not brought to the Kisan Sabha and the Communist Party through its own experience of struggle and through concerted political education or objective of the Indian Revolution, will only remain on paper. Take the experience of our neighbor, China. Why did the revolution succeed, overcoming all the difficulties in that country, which is even more vast than ours? One of the key reasons is that their Communist Party under Mao Zedong brought brought the vast peasantry along with the working class into revolutionary struggle. Without building a powerful and militant peasant, Kisan Sabha, sorry, one second. Without building a powerful and militant peasant, Kisan Sabha, without politically awakening the peasantry and bringing it under the influence of Communist Party, a socialist revolution in India is impossible, unquote. So through this quote, we could see that what their aims were focused on, and they also worked to prove these points true. Shamrao and Godavari both started political like elementary schools for the Adivasis to give them basic knowledge of political ideologies, especially of Marxist ideologies. But before that, I would like to talk about the All India Kisan Sabha. So in 1942, Shamrao was selected as an organizer in Maharashtra. They worked for 3 years tirelessly, traveling in different districts to set up the Kisan Sabha. So in 1944, they finally started it. They finally started it in Kalyan, Murbad, and Shahapur Tehsil of Maharashtra district. The Purvikars held the first conference of the Maharashtra Rajya Kisan Sabha in 1945 at Titwala in Thane district. Their majority of the work was focused in Thane district. So Godavari, to promote this conference, she traveled in 700 villages on foot and addressed 160 public meetings. And because of this, she came in. Successfully. Hello? Hello? Am I audible?
Please, everyone, mute yourselves.
Sorry. I'll continue. Okay, so because of this traveling and talking with the Adivasis, she came in very intimate contact with them. She understood what they were going through, the appalling way the landlords were treating them, and how this was a start for them towards their way for helping the Adivasis. But before that, I will talk about the conference and the success of it. The news of the conference was also carried by the Lal Bauta Kala Pathak of Communist Party as far as possible. And because the result of this was more than 7,000 peasants from all over Maharashtra attended the Sabha. Godavari was elected as the joint secretary of the Maharashtra Rajya Sabha, and this after like the impact of this conference could be seen that not more than 6 months after this conference, the first phase of Adivasi revolt had already started. So they head to Walis. So when they had gone to the Thana belt of the Adivasi belt of Thana district in 1944, that was the first time they had visited it, and they had organized a meeting. Almost 300 Walis had attended and participated, and there they learned the atrocities they faced under the landlords. And there they promised that if you send your representatives to our meeting, we will help you in return by giving you Kisan Sabha members, and they will help you in your struggle. And in that, 15 Adivasis from this area went to the conference. And when they returned, they were like different people. They were inspired by their ideals and principles, by the Marxist ideology. And they even brought back some red flags as a symbol. And like as I said, like the influence of the conference could be seen that within 6 months, the first phase was active. So both Parulekars wrote books on the revolt. Shamra wrote an English book titled Revolt of Walis in 1947. And Godavari wrote 3 books actually. 2 of them were on the Adivasi revolt. The first one was called Adivasi Revolt, the story of Wali peasants in struggle. And the second was Jeva Manus Daga Hoto. I'll talk about them under the literary works category. So through these books, we sort of understand how how she saw the atrocities which were committed and how dedicated she was to the cause, and how she integrated herself in the trials and tribulations of the Walis. So the second conference was held, especially for the Walis, was on May 23rd, 1945. A conference was organized at Zari in Ambargaon Tehsil, where 5,000 Adivasis were participated, but in that 500 of them were women, and this was the first time women from tribal area had participated in this conference. So Shamrao and Godavari again were the ones to overlook over the conference, and they gave them 4 aims and slogans. First is, do not cultivate the private land of landlords unless he pays in cash the daily wage of 12 annas. Second is, do not render any free service to the landlord. Third is, resist him if he assaults you. And fourth is, you must all unite. And these 4, the Adivasis took these 4 slogans to their heart and continued their revolt. The first phase was very successful, and the second phase was in works. And we could see how this revolt was looked upon by the outer world through this quote from the Bombay Chronicle in 1945. Quote, the docile Adivasis who had so long accepted oppression without a murmur have suddenly started resisting with their heads held high. They are now class conscious with red flags in their hands. Mass rallies are taking place all over the taluka. Their enthusiasm is unprecedented. Begar work has ceased to exist as a result of these rallies and demonstrations, unquote. So with the second phase, the Walis were still winning against the landlords. But in 1946, when Congress came into power in Bombay Presidency, they actually put an emergency on in the Thane district because of the rise of communism, and because of this, they externed Shamrao and Godavari to enter enter a Thane district. They captured 200 Adivasis as militants, and they also arrested Godavari herself on 6 February 1947 for her participation in the revolt. And many strict impositions were put on Thane district. So on the eve of her imprisonment, Morarji Desai made a speech in Bombay Assembly, and he said, quote, there will be no compromise with the Walis. We shall not hand over the Adivasis to the communists, unquote. So we also see a rising tension between not just the British, but also with the Congress. And in the revolt continued, but they couldn't directly participate in it on their ideals, even though they were not allowed to set foot in Thana. They returned in 1953, and before 1953, they were mostly underground because of their workings with the Communist Party. So on their return, she said, quote, we could only return to Thana district in February 1953. thousands of Walis had gathered in Mahalakshmi to welcome us back. We were deeply moved by their display of love, loyalty, and enthusiasm. I wondered if we truly deserved it. It was the Parulekar's habit to fall silent whenever he was deeply moved. He did so, sitting quite still for a few minutes. Then he said, "How puny individuals like you and I are in the midst of this surging people. How devoted, loving, and full of life they are. It was their own strength that helped them cut the chains of bondage. We only acted as catalysts." Unquote. So through this quote, we could see how how much humility they had and how grounded they were and how dedicated they were to this cause. And after independence, as I said, they were mostly underground during the 1947 independence struggle. Their next major step was their work towards the liberation of Dadra and Nagar Haveli in 1954. They went against the Portuguese rule with other communist members and Adivasis, and they were mostly successful in doing so. She continued fighting for Adivasis and participating in Kisan Sabha and Communist Party. In 1964, the party was divided, and majority of the members followed them, especially the Parulekars, in forming a new party, which is called the Communist Party of India, Marxist. And this split, even though they were not present during the split, they had a big impact during it. But soon, in 1965, on August 3rd, 1965, Shamrao suffered a major heart attack in Arthur Road jail. Both of them were in that jail. And his death was a big blow to her, as they both were, as I said, very well connected in their personal and political life. And it took her many months to come out of that shock. And after his death, after 6 months, she completed her first book, Adivasi's Revolt. And in the introduction to that book, she says how he encouraged her to write from the beginning when he had first written the book, and telling how she could write about her stories and Adivasi stories from her point of view. So when she was released from the jail, she continued her work with CPIM and Kisan Sabha. After his death, to give his homage, Kranti Simha Nana Hatil, who worked with them for many, many years, he said, quote, "One barrel of this double-barreled gun had been silenced forever," unquote. So when she was released, she became, after many years of struggling and fighting for her cause, for the Adivasis, like the forest land policies or the land policies, or her struggle during the drought in Maharashtra. She continued fighting, and she became the first president of the All India Kisan Sabha in 1986. Even in her advanced age, she continued traveling all over India and giving speeches and inspiring younger communists to attend to communists to fight against the peasant struggles. And over the years, she also received a lot of accolades for her personal and literary works. So, one second. So her literary works, as I said, she published 3 books: Adivasi's Revolt, Ja Manus Zaga Hoto, and Bandhivasachi 8 Varsha. So Ja Manus Zaga Hoto received a lot of praise. It received a Sahitya Akademi Award, Jawaharlal Nehru Award, and for her public work, social work, she received a Lokmanya Tilak Award and Savitribai Phule Award for the emancipation and for her propagation of equality in society. She died on October 8, 1996. Her funeral was attended by thousands at Talasari in Thane district. In her will, they did not have any children. They chose, it was their choice to not have children and to only focus on this cause. So after her death, her will said to give away all her property to the Communist Party and its cause. The Portuguese, though they didn't have any children, their legacy was continued by thousands of Adivasis and by thousands of communists who, with their ideals, sort of worked even after their death. And I will now conclude my topic. These are some of the references I used, and thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Reechi. The floor is open to questions. No questions? If no questions, anyone you would like to comment?
Oh, yes, Ramesh, Venkatesh here.
Yes, go ahead.
I think it was a very articulate and a very informative presentation. I think these aspects some of us were not aware of. I at least wasn't aware of too much of this, and communities that were spoken about. I think it was quite educative, and it would be great to hear from these young stars once more in the future too. Thank you.
It was a good presentation. In fact, something different, and I'm very happy that all three presentations, added some new fund of knowledge to what we know about the freedom struggle. And especially the third presentation, I thought was very, very good, bringing into light another part of the freedom struggle. So thank you very much. And thank you to all the participants who have, spent morning with us and encouraged our presentations and encouraged the activities of the Mumbai Research Center. I thank you, all of you. And if in case anyone wants to give any type of feedback, please give us right now, or you can write to us more suggestions. We are very, very happy that students are now participating in the activities of the Mumbai Research Center, and we would encourage you all to pass the word round. In fact, Ramesh, please share the links of all three of today's programs that are remaining with this with the participants. You can in fact put it over here in the chat, and we have 3 more programs today, and pass the word round to your friends also.
Hello, ma'am. I can see a question on the mentions of sources to me.
Yeah.
Mainly for primary sources, it was their own works. Like as I mentioned, 3 books from Godavari Parulekar and 1 book from Shamrao Parulekar. And there is also a centenary of tales called a written sort of manifesto as such on their works by Ashok Dhawale. It is available online, you could read it. Then there are like JSTOR articles on the Wali revolt and Godavari's participation in it. So these are like few of the sources you could use. I mainly focused on the first, like her books per se, and also the Ashok Dhawale PDF, because he himself knew her personally, and so he mentions a lot of incidents which we wouldn't get from any like other sort of resource, because of his personal knowledge of her. So yeah, these are some of the sources I used, and I would recommend them, and they are available. Most of them are available online, so you could easily access them.
Any further questions? Anyone wants to say anything, comment anything?
I would like to congratulate the Mumbai Research Center at the Asiatic for taking this initiative. I remember last December 2021 also these student presentations were taken by the Asiatic Society's MRC. So I'm really happy that you are taking these initiatives and encouraging students.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am, for appreciating. And please encourage more students from your department to participate in our activities. There are lots of activities for students.
Yes,
there are lots of free lectures also that they can understand.
Yes,
And they can be on our sort of, WhatsApp group, which is called MRC Updates. I will share the link with you.
yes.
So, they will come to know about our paid programs and, free programs. We have a mix and match of several things.
Yes.
So
I keep passing on to my MA group students.
yeah, thank you so much.
Asiatic is such a renowned association. So we are too happy our students representing there.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Hello.
Yogesh bhai, you want to say something?
Yeah, I just want to give some information to the students. Why this 26th January was selected for the as a Republic Day. Seniors to all may be knowing, for the students or those who are not knowing, this date was selected because there was a Congress session at Lahore, mostly in 1930. And there was a call for the Purna Swaraj was given. So our independence is not said to be a total independence till we have our own constitution. So after 1947, we have made our own constitution. It took around more than 3 years. And after that, that's the reason this 26th January was selected as a day to declare as a Republic of India. So we celebrate Republic Day because of that call given on the Lahore session on 26 January. This is just for information.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And Mayor, please encourage your students to participate in more activities. Mayor Mystery.
Sure, ma'am. Thank you very much for giving us a chance. Thank you.
No, please. There are lots of student activities taking place. So, I'll if I get your phone number, I'll forward things to you and I'll put you on the MRC college group,
Thank you very much, ma'am.
Yeah. Ramesh, thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. And I think we call it a day because we have another program coming up at 12 o'clock.
Yes.
Kurush Dalal is going to speak on Mumbai and the independence struggle. Then at 3 o'clock, we have a quiz where, there are participants from all over India. Yesterday, we had a preliminary round and 6 winners have been chosen to participate today. And at 7 o'clock, we have a talk by Faisal Devji, who is professor at Oxford, and he's going to talk on Gandhi and silence. So there are 3 good programs still for the rest of the day, and we look forward to having many of you all participate in them. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Shall we end the session?
Yeah, please.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a good day and please do attend all the other sessions. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.